This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
Anyone can have a stroke at any age, but your chance of having a stroke increases if you have certain risk factors.
Some of the risk factors you can control and some you can't. According to the CDC, risk factors that we can control include high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, and diabetes.
Other controllable risk factors include an unhealthy diet, physical inactivity, obesity, tobacco use, and alcohol use.
Risk factors that we cannot control include family history, as well as age and gender. You know, stroke is more common in men than in women. And finally, ethnicity. African Americans, Hispanics, American Indians, and Alaska Natives have a greater chance of having a stroke than do non-Hispanic whites or Asians.
Okay, so as we just learned, high blood pressure is a major stroke risk factor. Uncontrolled high blood pressure can damage and weaken your brain's blood vessels, causing them to narrow, rupture, or leak.
And a key part of controlling your blood pressure is monitoring it. That's where the new Apple Watch can help. And for at least one man with high blood pressure, there's hope this apple a day will keep the doctor away. Like his grandfather, father, and brothers, Andreas Rubiano has had high blood pressure for more than 20 years.
Not knowing what was going on really, and then the fear of ending up like one of my relatives at some point, you know, that if it is uncontrolled, that I would end up with a stroke, with a heart attack.
But technology and a first-of-its-kind program meant instead of getting a blood pressure reading in his doctor's office a few times a year, it's taken at home and sent by his cell phone several times a week to his physician. Any red flags, and he's called to change medication or lifestyle.
It really feels like somebody's looking after you constantly, and it's a feeling I never had before.
Now, the new Apple Watch makes this program even better. Andres will get medication reminders with a picture of the pill, feedback about potential side effects of a new medication, prescription refill reminders, and tracking and reminders about diet and exercise. Cardiologist Dr. Richard Milani says this helps patients contribute to their own better health.
The watch gives us an opportunity to help modify behavior, which is really a key to trying to control high blood pressure. So half the people with high blood pressure don't take their medications or don't take them on time.
More than a dozen top hospitals are already piloting Apple's HealthKit software.
There is so much technology out there, it is absolutely incredible. But a lot of this stuff comes down to education and simple willpower to ward off the things that can harm us. So joining us today to tell us more about it is Dr. Richard Bird, who is a neurologist with Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Today. Okay, so help me out with something here. If someone in my family has had a stroke, does that mean I'm going to have one?
Not necessarily, but the risk goes up.
Okay.
Blood pressure, cholesterol, sugar, all tend to be genetic diseases. So if your family has it, odds are you may get that too, which increases your risk. One always has to watch what the ancestors are getting, because those are the things you have to worry about the most.
I know a lot of people who get migraines. Are migraines connected to stroke?
Somewhat. They're finding in the last 10, 15 years that people who have had bad migraines have a slightly higher risk of stroke. A few people actually have had a stroke during a migraine, and the tendency is a little higher. So yes, there is some risk, but it's fairly small.
Okay, so when it comes to dealing with the stroke, are there some lifestyle changes that we can make to lower the risk?
Well, we give the usual scenario to everybody about better diet, exercise, quit smoking, of course,
right,
cut back alcohol use, and just, you know, enjoy life more, get more sleep. Because sleep deprivation is being associated with many more diseases than we used to think it was, and the people who don't get as much sleep don't lose as much weight.
Oh, okay. So sleep is good. You know, in the past, when you thought about someone having a stroke or someone who had a stroke, you're thinking of like older people, and sometimes they end up disabled from the stroke, but that's not necessarily the case anymore, is it?
No, I've seen people in the hospital now, most of them now are younger than me, which I find appalling. I've seen people with strokes in their 30s and 40s. We're having more epidemic of obesity with more people with hypertension and diabetes. We still have a lot of heavy smokers out there, although it's dropped significantly over the decades, but they're still out there.
Right.
So we still see it, even in younger people, and sometimes in the prime of their life, we can see a fairly disabling or even lethal stroke.
And they can regain their mobility, though. You're seeing them recover as well.
Some do, yes. Large strokes can certainly be very disabling, smaller ones, and ones that we can intervene in if they get to the emergency room in time to give them the clot-busting medication, TPA, may actually do better in the long run, yes.
I was going to ask you about that because there is now a medical intervention. Is there a window for when that's best going to work?
Yes, this has been around since around 1995. We have a 3-hour window which has been proved to be very effective. They recently increased the time frame up to 4.5 hours, but that last hour and a half, you can show some improvement, but your odds, the sooner you get started with it, the better you will do.
And another way to prevent is knowing your numbers. Explain that.
Know what your blood pressure is. Know what your cholesterol is. If you're diabetic, knowing what your hemoglobin A1C is, because that's the marker for what your sugars average over time. So, and of course your weight, things like that. So yes, those numbers are helpful. The more normal they are, the better you will do.
And if you don't know what, for instance, your blood pressure number is, you can find that out with a screening that's coming up. It's going to be Friday, May 22nd between 11 and 1 at the Frank B. Hanna Outpatient Center at PRMC.
Yes.
All right, and there's another event that's going on that raises awareness to stroke.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about
We're
that?
having a strikeout stroke at the Shorebird Stadium on May 30th, and I will be throwing out the first pitch with
there you
that.
go.
So we invite everybody to come to the game and see a perfect strike.
All right, and if you want more information on that, the number is 410-219-3112. Game time is 7:05 against West Virginia.
Yes.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
I
You're
hope
going to get
so.
that ball over the plate.
If you were to boil everything down to one message that you want to give to someone who has a family history of stroke, what would you say?
Modify your risk behaviors, modify your risk behaviors. The better you control them, the better you will do.
And you can control them.
To a point. You can't prevent the fact that you may have the condition, but you can certainly change how it affects you.
All right, Dr. Bird, thank you so much. Very important information for people of all ages. And if you would like to learn more about stroke prevention and treatment at PRMC or the upcoming screenings and events, visit our website, WVOC.com, and click on our picture at the top of the page.
So as we just learned, many a stroke can leave patients without the ability to do simple tasks, and that means relearning those tasks. You might remember when Peninsula Home Care showed us the Sabo device, how it's used to retrain the brain to signal our muscles to do something like pick up a coffee cup. It looks kind of like a robotic arm. Researchers are taking that idea a step further by adding harmony into the mix.
Anytime you see some progress,
Put your other hand over here.
you don't know unless you start out this way what progress means.
For Joel Borden, every inch feels like a mile closer to his goal.
Need to be back at the golf course.
But rather than taking on 18 holes, Joel's been taking on a new challenge.
I knew I was having a stroke, yes. I knew exactly what was going on.
When you feel it, go ahead and raise both arms up. Lead with the left arm.
It affected my left leg, my cheek right here, a little bit of my eye.
The entire left side, but not his sense of humor.
It didn't bother my speech. I talk this bad anyway.
3 hours a day are spent getting his arm back.
I work at a golf course. You can see how important this is.
It's patients like Joel that these students want to help.
Our goal is to deliver more therapy, also possibly better therapy than what people are getting.
Harmony is a robotic exoskeleton.
That's a good motion right there, I like that.
With repeated motions, it helps patients regain strength and coordinate muscles. Researchers see robots as a critical tool for healthcare in the future.
Being able to see an end goal that's going to be positive for people is, I mean, that's a win-win.
I'd be willing to try, yeah.
But Joel says he hopes Harmony will help the next guy, because he plans to be sinking a hole-in-one in no time. Isn't that amazing?
It is.
Medical trials on actual patients going to start later on this year. Researchers are also looking for investors to get that technology on the market.
Well, many times it takes an expert to help get your health back on track. It can also take an expert to help get your home prepared for the summer heat. Well, today we have Delmarva Life's Sean Stryker. He tries his hand, well, actually his whole body, at a day in the life of an HVAC technician. Learn what goes into this grueling job and where during the learning process our Sean Stryker got stuck.
Oh. Well, maybe you need some help from the experts on getting your fence up. The temperatures are high. Your kids and dogs are probably itching to get outdoors. A little later on, we're going to learn what to look for when it comes to the proper fencing and how to get the most bang for your buck. Delmarva Life. We'll be right back.